Hi everyone, my name is Sid, and my partner Lee and I decided to create a Star Wars simulation for our final project. So a few goals we had while making this project were first to create a real-time scene of Star Wars that you might actually find in a video game. The second was to allow the user to explore the various objects in the scene, and third was to add enough realistic effects to make the world actually interesting for the user to observe. Now, we had a scene layout in which the Galactic Empire was invading Naboo, and so to that effect, we added many different objects and effects to make that scene very realistic, which I'll go into more detail during our demo. We use many different concepts as well to make these seem very realistic in terms of shadow mapping as well as flocking, which again we'll see in the demo. Now let us go to the demo so we can go ahead and show you.
So now, as we first enter the scene, we can see a Naboo building in the scene. So instead of rendering a static building in the scene, we decided to render a moving texture on the wall of the building. To do this, we actually sample the texture, the different parts of the textures based on time. And also one thing worth mentioning here is as you move around, you can see there's reflections on the building. And we did this by implementing foam algorithm in the shaders.
Another thing to observe is the world in which everything exists here. So first, there are two things. There is the terrain on which on which the building itself sits, and this was created using Maya. And as you can see, there are many hills and valleys to create a very kind of realistic effect, as well as a texture that we mapped onto it to give it a kind of rocky, planet-like feel. The second thing, as you can see in the background, is the skybox, which is essentially a cube with 6 faces, and each face has a different texture, which creates a very kind of endless world type of experience that allows a very more immersive experience for the user.
So as you look up, you should be able to see TIE fighters flying in the sky. So each of these fighters is implemented with voice algorithm. So it's a flocking algorithm that allows each fighter to move independently, but not in a predetermined way. And also, it allows the fighters to move in a group, but not colliding with each other. We also created a light source. So if you look down to the terrain, you should be able to see shadows of the building and even shadows of the fighters. So the technique we use in this case is shadow mapping, which is different from ray tracing. So shadow mapping is a real-time technique to render shadows in a realistic way.
Finally, you can see that on the ground there's an R2-D2 object, which is cool because it allows us to move around the world from a POV perspective. This means that as we move around, we're actually operating from the perspective of R2-D2. As we look around, the R2-D2 looks around, and the R2-D2 moves in the direction that I want to move. Additionally, you can see that because I'm not just moving forward, backwards, left, and right, I'm actually moving in the direction that I'm looking. This gives me a very dynamic range of motion in which I can operate and actually explore the world that I've created. Finally, the last thing to observe is that you can see right here is the Death Star, which we created. Again, this is part of the context in which the Galactic Empire is invading Naboo, and you can see the planet, you can see the Death Star in the distance of our planet. So as you can see, we use many different effects and many different objects to create a world that would be interesting for the user to explore as perhaps part of a video game or something like that. So we hope that you found this interesting, and thank you for listening.